Welcome to the stage, Frank DiGraci, coordinating producer and producer for Nets at Yes Network, and Travis Sampson, the CTO of BSE Global. We're going to be talking about the Netaverse. And I think do we have a video here that we can run? I can't see it, so someone nod their head when it's showing. So take a second and look at this while we introduce it. So the Netaverse is something that the Nets debuted this season, radically different way of looking at basketball, of broadcasting basketball. And so we're going to talk about where it came from, what it is, what it might look like in the future. But Frank, why don't you take us back to the beginning to start? How did you first hear about this idea, this concept? Walk us through how we got from there to eventually fans seeing it at home.
It all started with Steve Helmuth of the NBA. It's been his passion project for a few years. They partnered with Ken Ito, who's been our main contact at Canon. And one day I showed up and there was a truck in the building. And they said, come on over. And so the background is it's been in the works. We're really honored that the NBA, Brooklyn Nets, they picked the Yes Network to actually be the network to debut it. We were the first ones to air it before the Nationals. That was an honor and something that was on their radar. They wanted to work with us, and we were honored that we could work with them. But so it just started in the fall, and then it took a while to get going. It took a while. There's a lot of experimentation. It was always kind of in beta mode until it aired. It almost aired probably 2 months before it was ready. But then once we worked out a lot of the kinks, and then we just ran with it.
And when you're talking about the installation, we're talking, what, like 100-some cameras all around here? But what actually went into putting this in the building?
So the magic of this showing up once Frank arrived was a little bit more work behind the scenes. So the technology itself, it's been in the works for since 2016. Wow. Canon's been playing with volumetric technology for a while. There isn't a true working commercial iteration of this until we, with Canon and the NBA, really decided to put our foot forward with the technology. But the installation took about a month initially. We have about 100 cameras installed in the bowl, tied back to Canon's AV truck, which ultimately they have a AI piece of infrastructure that really runs the technology. But the implementation, to Frank's point, it was quick, but the journey to get the technology to where it is now has been a slow grind, and we totally understood that this wasn't going to be a snap your finger and all of a sudden we have volumetric technology working. But we've actually loved the process. I think the synergy between the NBA, Canon, and BSE Global has really, helped to push this. Frank's group has told an impeccable narrative of what the technology is, and they've really taken the name and the concept and given it life in a way tech guys like myself really can't.
And as far as I know, you guys are still keeping it a mystery about who created the term Netaverse. Is that right? You ready to reveal whose idea that was?
Person's in this room, actually.
Okay. She is. We're not naming names.
It was Mandy Gutman, yes, of BSE.
Very good.
Public relations. and it took a while to get there. There were a lot of different...
Any bad names you want to share with us?
No.
But I think the play on it is really the metaverse, obviously Facebook now being called Meta, but VR technology, AR technology has been around for a long time. How we make it immersive, how we make it something that's commercial, that's part of your day-to-day, is really what the Netaverse and Metaverse is looking to do. And I think this, for us, was our play on that, and it's really caught on. And we like the fact that it's a different way to look at sports. It's a different way to immerse yourself in what traditionally is a very linear way to look at basketball. And again, Frank has put together a really revolutionary way of how this content meets the general public. So it's been a great process.
Yeah, and I'm guessing everybody here in the room, me especially, I'm always eager to try, every camera gimmick that comes along. I was the one who was like holding a 360 camera above my head on vacation, to get like these 360 photos that had nowhere to go. But how do you go about identifying, what's actually worth the time and the effort, the expense, and turning technology into something that you can use on a broadcast?
Right. Well, if you go back to the question on the name, like vision was part of the thoughts, right? That's the first thing you see is the vision. 360 was part of a thought. That's what this can do. So the second that I saw it, I said, I can be Kevin Durant standing on center court and see what he sees. And that's what popped in my head right away. So our world is very linear. It's very 180. It's very one side of the floor. We have been experimenting with different cameras through the years, especially with the NBA. We had the Sky Cam last year. We had the Rail Cam. We had above the rims. We had below the rims. We have on the floor. But now all of a sudden, I can combine all that in this one technology, and that's what popped to me right away. Is that we can do all these different things off of this one technology.
And for us, just to add to that, what really pushed, from a BSC standpoint is, COVID played a huge role in this. I think a lot of broadcasters had to rethink how they get their content to the fans. The bubble was the bubble. I don't think anyone wants to go back to what the bubble was. And, so for us, it's, in the event of, what other mechanisms do we have to really get our content to the consumer, but get it in a way that goes against the grain, and I think, some of the things that we're looking to do down the road with Yes Network and this concept with this technology, I think is going to speak to that.
Talking about inspirations, how much were you thinking about looking at video games when you were building this and deciding what it's going to look like? So I think for a lot of people, you know the way the camera moves in 2K when a basket is scored and flips around, and you do get a sense of that. So how much were you thinking about gaming and maybe the familiarity people might have with those types of views as you were building this out? So
you figure a traditional 2K model takes about 4 to 5 months to put together. So if we're putting a traditional 2K basketball game together, it's the movement. It's a guy in a green bubble suit, moving or trying to mimic the movement of players, and then you layer over on top of him the likeness of a Kevin Durant or a Kyrie Irving, and then you have, a game that you can put to market. This technology takes all that, and in 15 seconds, you can have Kevin Durant in his natural movement, his true likeness, so for us, the gaming concept behind this was, no pun intended, it was a game changer.
And for me, I have two 15-year-old twins, and they were like, "Oh my God, it's 2K come to life!" So yes, that's definitely a big part of it. And there's, to finish up, there's been a reaction too by age. There's almost like a cutoff. I'm not going to say where it is, but if you're a little bit older, you're like, "Yeah, all right, whatever." I kind of see it. And then if you're younger, you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is going to be awesome."
Yeah, so tell me more about the night it debuted. What were your concerns going in, and then how did you see kind of the reaction start to come in?
My concerns were throughout, and it's still a concern, and we're working on it, it can get better. The video quality can get better. There's a little bit of tearing sometimes in certain spots.
What does tearing mean for people?
Tearing means that it's not a clear piece of video. It's like pixelated would be the best way to put it. There were different spots on the floor where a referee's running. If they run away from the cameras, you're not going to see it. The benches, I've seen the video, you don't see the benches, you don't see the crowd, right? So how would that get accepted? Because it was so different. But I think once I put you on the floor, because that's the other part of this, is that myself, my team, Eric Roldan, other guys, we were directing it. There's 6 different outputs.
Correct. Six cameras, 6 different outputs. Well, 100 cameras, 6 different outputs.
Yeah, 6. So just 6 different people operating a joystick, flying it around wherever you want to go. Start me up high, move me down low, spin it around. To getting all that background. That's what it took us a bunch of games to actually figure that out too. How do you want to use it? Where do you want to use it? But once it went to air, we were ready. So we were ready, and I knew it'd get a mixed reaction, like I said, but I think for the most part, we were all very excited.
I think the reaction is what really blew us away. We were so nervous, from a technical standpoint as well, just making sure everything worked to the best that we were able to do. And then within 24 hours, you get 2 million views on TikTok. In less than 12 hours, you have 76,000 views on Twitter. That spoke to folks being excited about it as well. And that for us was inspiring. That for us has continued to push, the evolution of the technology. Again, it's very much in its infancy, but we see where this can go long term, and I think the partnership between Canon, NBA, and BSC is really going to push that.
Yeah, tell me more, each of you, what is the ultimate vision for this? Where do you want to get this to?
For me, it's teaching on the broadcast. It's a unique thing. We've always been experimenting with technology, and it's something where it can take us places that traditional TV can't take you. The other way, too, is there's never going to be an angle. There's never going to be a play where you say, you know what, I don't have an angle. Was his foot on the line? Was he in the corner? Did he beat the clock? That sort of thing. And I think also it can take you to, you want to sit in Jay-Z seats? I can put you in Jay-Z seats now, and you can see what he sees. So there's all different ways you can go in coaching and teaching. And so for us, for the broadcast, I mean, it's just whatever our imagination takes us, really.
I also believe with the emergence of esports, this plays a huge part in that. I think there is Frank spoke about a age group. I think there is an age group that loves this type of technology. They again don't want to watch basketball the way their grandfather or their father watch basketball on Sundays. They want to have a different way of looking and immersing themselves in the content, and this really allows for them to do so. We really see this as being something where it isn't a competitor to an actual broadcast, but it's more so a complement for that tier of viewers that don't necessarily want to watch basketball in the traditional way.
And do you think, can we get to the point, kids love to mess around with things where they'll be able to move around or interact with it or with other viewers? Is that something that could happen?
Any possibilities on the table at this point. Again, we're talking about a piece of technology that's 3 to 5 years away from actually being in commercial use, and we have it working today. So the window of opportunity and possibilities are really based on how far we want to push it.
We can do it now, so
you get to have all the fun.
Yeah. Exactly. But and eventually our analysts, our Kustak's going to be able to do it. And whereas in old school telestrating, you're putting your finger, you're drawing the lines. She's going to go into the Netaverse and spin on an iPad at the table. Yeah. So that's never been seen before. So yeah, we can definitely go to those places.
And then just the other part of it with just the Metaverse, the whole premise of this platform from a global standpoint, you have investment banks building their own Metaverse. You got Goldman Sachs just built their own version of it. So the premise really is you can be in the Brooklyn Nets Metaverse watching a game. The Braves just built their own stadium that's part of their Metaverse. And for me, when you look at it from a tech standpoint, think about it from this perspective. You can be in the Brooklyn Nets Metaverse watching a basketball game, and you're like, oh man, I forgot to buy groceries. Let me go to the Walmart Metaverse, and you buy your groceries. They show up to you real time in your house, but then you can go back to the Nets Metaverse and finish watching that game. So the opportunities for us are limited, based on our imagination, to be honest.
Yeah, the Braves obviously recreated their ballpark. Is it something you were interested in doing here with these lovely confines?
We'll get there someday, eventually.
And maybe we've said this word, maybe we haven't. Is this, I think some people may see this and think virtual reality, right? Goggles, headset, moving my head around. Is that something you see this tied to, or is that something different? How do those two play together?
I think it's all tied together. I think what separates it now is the usability of the technology. I think in Frank's world, as he was saying before, he has the ability to move the cameras around and place himself on the floor next to Kyrie Irving as Kyrie's deciding to go left or right. The typical user doesn't have that ability, but the VR component of it, I think that platform needs to get to a point where it's more commonplace. And I think once we get there, then the addition of this technology in that space will make it better. But for now, it's VR is very much, I'm not going to say gimmicky. It's in its novelty stage at this point, and we need to get it to a point where it's part of your day-to-day. And I think once we get there, you'll see those type of changes.
And like I said, we experimented with that. I put the camera below the floor. I put it above the floor. I put it on the celebrity seats. Well, we really used it there this year too, is because like I said, we're shooting the one side. I can go put me on the bench side. We don't have cameras on the bench side. And then there's other plays where there's I don't know if it was on the tape. Bruce Brown's at the foul line. He's waving his arm. He cuts down the lane. Durant passes to him, and he dunks it. Every other camera, our normal camera, we did not see Bruce Brown. We were too tight on the ball or too tight on Kevin Durant. And then I widened it out. I spun it around. Oh, my God, that's how that play happened. We saw what Kevin Durant saw, which we didn't have on the regular television.
I think the storytelling aspect of that, of what this system allows us to do, is going to be part of what changes the whole, the public taking this in and it being more of a commonplace type of thing. You know, Frank can really tell a story. I've sat in the control room and watching him do Frank, which is art in itself. But you know, it changes.
When are we getting that camera view? You know.
Oh man, you got to get tickets to that one. But you know, it allows the consumer just a different perspective. You know, to be able to stand center court. You know, and I think Frank brought it up before. And you're standing next to Kyrie Irving, and you now get the perspective of him going left. You see why. You see what he sees. You see a play unfolding. I don't think traditional cameras can give you that level of granularity, and these cameras are able to do so.
You know, I would say that the what's the storage space that it has?
So the system from a technology standpoint, and this is one of the things I think it blows people away, but you know, this processes about 60 terabytes of data per event. So, you know, you got to look at it from the standpoint of all this movement, all this activity. It's 60 terabytes of data being processed from game to game, which is unheard of at this point. So we're still baby steps into what this can really be. And once we figure out, you know, the best ways to really hone in and harness some of the technology that we have, I think this will push us even further.
And that's what we're talking about, the storytelling. So I'm very focused on broadcasting a game and what happens right away and telling that story. But then you have the post-game, you have the pre-game. So there were 18 turnovers. We can go back and find the turnovers. They hit 10 3-pointers. Why were they all open? Different strategies that you sometimes don't find out till after the game, that we can go back and find this footage and then tell the story that way for the next game.
Yeah, how is it changing the way you think, the way you operate in the truck?
Now it's show me something that I can't see with the normal cameras. That's how I think about it right away. Put me on the floor, put me behind the player, put me in the corner, put me somewhere where my traditional cameras can't get it. That's the foundation of it right now.
Yeah, you get to kind of be greedy with wherever you want to be, right?
To me, it's the first replay should be the best angle to show you what just happened. Was that a foul? Was it not a foul? Why did he make it? Did he beat the clock? Was he behind the line? Was there a screen that's got the guy open? A lot of it with us, we have the super slow-mo. I mean, that's what you see a lot on Thursday night in the NBA Finals, right? Every camera now can be super slow-mo, right? That was a big jump in technology only like 2 years ago. Right? So this is the next jump. So I have all that at my disposal. What can I do extra? What can I do better? And that's what I think this technology gives us.
And you all mentioned the league and the NBA and their role in this. What are your conversations with them? I mean, you talked about kind of having every angle. Is this something that we can finally, you know, officiate and see if the ball was in or the foot was in or out? I mean, are there other kind of league-wide things you think this could have an impact on?
Yeah.
I mean, I would say the league already has. They already have the data capture. Like, they can tell you that Joe Harris ran 8 miles last game. I think for me it was more of the vision of how to use it, and they had the technology, but they didn't have the vision of how it would be used. And I think that's what I'm going to bring to the table.
And I think from the league standpoint, the gaming aspect of this still is paramount. The ability to now step out of a traditional broadcast and tell a story in a more unique way, I think it's compelling for them. It's appealing. The NBA has always been at the forefront of technology, innovation in sports, and this again speaks to that in a lot of ways.
And for you all next year going forward, what is the goal with this? Is it to increase viewership times? Is it to get people to watch that maybe wouldn't have? Is it to generate extra revenue off sponsorship? What is the end goal of all this work you put in?
For me, and I think Frank will echo this, we want it to continue to evolve. We want the technology to get better. We want it to get sharper. We want it to get cleaner. I think all those other components will be organic. They'll happen as, it becomes more mainstream. It gets past the gimmicky stage, which I believe it has. All those other things will come. But for us, is knowing that we are very much in the beta of this technology, very much in the infancy, and we're like parents at this point. We're really trying to nurture it and grow it. So when we push it out into the real world, it's not mommy and daddy help. It's wow, this is an amazing piece of tech. It can stand on its own, and what it does and how it revolutionizes the space. Frank and I can sit in the back and just bask.
I do echo that, but I think to me it's the clarity, right? When you see the examples, you're jumping into right away the Netaverse, right? The gaming space. It's a video game come to life. I think it can get even better, that it won't be as much different as what we have now. And it'll be more of a different tool. And to me, it's the video quality, the cameras, the lighting, all that stuff can get better and better and better. And then it won't be as jarring that you're in two different worlds. It's going to combine one world. I can show one replay on a regular replay. I can show a Netaverse replay, and they'll mesh together.
How does this fit into the brand, the vibe you want to set for the Nets broadcast? How does it fit into what you want people to think of when they think of Nets basketball?
I think it's what we've been trying to do for 20 years. We just finished our 20th season. Every year we want to do something different. Every year we want to do something better. We want to be unique. Like we talked about, we've experimented with other cameras. We experimented with technology. We experiment with graphics. We're always looking to push the envelope on that. We want you to come to our broadcast. You're going to get entertained. Iron Eagle, Sarah Kustak, no one's more entertaining, and you're going to get informed. And we've always brought different bits to the games as well, outside the game. What can we bring in to entertain you? So for that, it's just another element that's going to add to that. Each year we want to do a little bit more, and I think this is right in line with what we've been trying to do for 20 years.
And for me, speaking from the perspective of a Brooklynite, there's a cool factor to this. The Nets are the upstart. We have the team across the water. We're not going to name names, but the Nets are the upstart. But they also come at this cool factor, and I think this innovation, this technology, adds to that cool factor. So if we can really harness this and grow it the way we all envision, I think it's not only beneficial to the Nets, but I think ultimately to the league and all the teams at some point as well.
Awesome. This is going to be the last question of this session, the last question of the day. I'm going to try to make it a good one. I'll do my best. What is the problem you're looking to solve now, whether it's this technology or technology you're on the market for? What is the next step you want to take with the Nets to continue being on that front foot?
I think I wouldn't say a problem to solve. I think sports forces you to be creative. I think it allows you to step back and look at perspectives that you otherwise wouldn't have. I think basketball and broadcasting basketball, I've sit and watched what Frank does, what his team does, and it's such unique work. My focus when it comes to this technology is to enhance to the best of my ability, and I can echo that for BSE as well, to make their life easier, their work easier. So part of us partnering with them on this technology is, how can we make what you guys do at such a high level even better? Sarah, Grady, and the entire crew, they do such a phenomenal job. We want to make what they're trying to conceptualize verbally, give it that visual appeal, and this allows us to do so in a very creative way.
I just can't thank the NBA enough for coming to us first. We were first. We were not going to be last. It's in Cleveland as well. They used it for the All-Star game there. The NBA's vision is to have it in 28 arenas across the league, that every team can use it. For me, the game of basketball is so fast, and there's so many things happen that you don't see, that this technology can help us bring to the viewer and say, oh, I didn't see that. Now, that's always our goal, is that to slow the game down for the viewer, and this can help us do that.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you guys so much. So, we weren't able to get all of you guys into the virtual Barclays Center that they've built, so we're going to go down to the real one instead. I hope that's an okay consolation prize. So before we wrap up, I do want to thank just the sponsors for today, Grant Thornton, Next League, NASCAR, PointsBet, and BSC Global, our hosts here. And thank you both so much for the time.